happened.
My bad. Go.
Gridiron, guys.
There, that's what they pay for. That's what the gridiron guys pay for.
I'm so sorry.
That's the best. Yeah,
Trying to get more sponsors.
Yep.
Let's go.
Aditi, I brought up the point that some might be a little too anxious to throw dirt on the Steelers' grade.
I'm
now
anxious
that
too.
Ben is gone. I think the general consensus is they're going to be a team that hovers around 500, but not really a team that figures into the playoff race when it's all said and done. Are we onto something, or are we being a little too presumptuous?
You count out the Steelers at your own peril.
Yeah.
That's
I'm doing
all
it
I'll say.
at my own
Every
peril.
time you think they're dead and done, Mike Tomlin pulls something out. And I will remind you, Duck Hodges.
He came up earlier in the show.
I
talked about Duck Hodges.
Wait a second.
I told him about him.
Just missed the playoffs. Look, you look at the
They
Steelers
missed
right
it.
now.
I buried them, and they missed it. They missed the playoffs last year.
Okay, but again, let's talk about this year right now, okay? They missed the playoffs last year, but they were still in the conversation. They were still in it. What do you mean, wait, they missed the playoffs? They played the Chiefs. What are you talking about? They made the playoffs
last year. They made the playoffs.
What the hell am I talking about? You agreed with me.
Bull has to go in the penalty box for 2 minutes for misinformation.
That's 2
You
days
have
in a
to go
row.
vegan for the next day.
I love Aditi's look on her face.
They were in the playoffs.
They didn't deserve it. They stink.
I literally didn't know what you were talking about.
You're in the.
Look
That's a
at
bad
the
job
Steelers
out of me.
box.
That's a bad job out of me.
Guys, right now,
Yeah.
they have the highest paid defense in the NFL. They have a defense that is littered with first-round picks, and they have improved. They have playmakers. I would argue that there are 3 legitimate game breakers on that defense. Minkah Fitzpatrick, no matter what Madden says, is one of the best safeties in the game, and he's certainly being paid like it. TJ Watt and Cam Hayward, who doesn't get enough attention up front for eating up double, triple teams and opening everything for those outside rushers, for Watt and Highsmith. I like that Steelers defense a lot, and I really love that Terrell Austin and Brian Flores are in that room now. Yeah. We know that Mike Tomlin calls the defense on game days, but when you have TA and Flores having input, and Flores has already improved the linebackers. The linebackers are already better with Miles Jack there. So you've got a great defense. They desperately needed to improve their offensive line. They ostensibly did. We'll see in camp how improved it is. We'll see at the start of the season how improved it is. But they actually invested in the offensive line. You expect Najee Harris to be better. And now they don't have necessarily as seasoned a quarterback as they did as Ben Roethlisberger, but they have 2 much younger, more athletic guys who actually fit what Matt Canada wants to do. So I think that just sitting here and saying, oh, Ben's gone, so they're going to be 7-10 or 8-9, like it feels like it's too easy to do that. You actually have to look at the roster, look at what they have, look at who's on their coaching staff, and again, I do think that Mitch Trubisky is going to surprise some people. I think he's going to play much better than what you saw of him in Chicago.
But I don't think anybody's saying it because Roethlisberger retired, because he sucked the last 2 years anyway.
I'm saying that.
Yeah,
actually.
no, Mike did. Mike said, you know,
I'm not saying it.
Everybody says that Tomlin is the guy that always figures it out.
Tomlin's a great coach.
And Mike said, but Ben has always been there. And
I'm just saying we haven't seen them a full season.
They're never
without Ben
bad. I
Roethlisberger.
hear you.
Yeah.
They're never bad.
And until they do that, I feel like, the pressure's on them.
Aditi, I said before that the Steelers are like studs and duds on defense. That's how I see it. Am I wrong?
Also a great men's clothing store name.
Yeah, that's true.
By the way.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Like, where are you seeing a dud? Are you calling Devin Bush a dud because last year, the first year off of the surgery, he underachieved some?
I'm just not that impressed with their back 7 outside of Minkah Fitzpatrick at all. But I could be wrong. I don't follow them as closely as you do.
I'm very curious about the corner play. I mean, I definitely want to see what happens. Although, look, Levi Wallace was tremendous in Buffalo. They kept trying to find somebody else to beat him out, and every year he was as good as he gets. And I've talked to the secondary coaches in Buffalo who rave about him. I think that, again, sometimes you need a fresh start. You need a new place to go. And I'm not saying that they are the kings of the division. Right now, I think it's the Bengals that you have to beat, okay? Obviously. But I also am not willing to write them off and say, oh, the Steelers are definitely going to have a bad year.
But
or
you
that
also,
the Steelers are definitely going to have a down year.
You understand why we're anxious to write them off, obviously, having been pummeled by them for so long. So as soon as we get the opportunity, we want to. Now,
these are my Twitter mentions every day. It's Browns fans and Steelers fans fighting with each other constantly. I mean, it's just, it feels like
beautiful
pleasure in ripping on
it's
a
like
Steelers
Israel and
fan,
Palestine.
or a Browns fan actually getting the game sometimes.
But Aditi, you just scared us for a good 5 minutes, reminding us about a bunch of the great Steelers and how good they have the potential to be. My question is, can you now make us feel better by telling us some of their weaknesses that you're scared of, just to kind of balance out how I'm feeling right now?
Well, you definitely need it. I mean, the linebacker play in the run defense was atrocious. I started saying horrible.
Good.
It's worse than horrible. Atrocious a year ago. Now, part of it, I think, is that the Steelers just sold out to stop the pass. They weren't really committed to the run game. I think that they were super hurt by not having Tyson Alualu, their big run stuffer, in the middle, and not having Stephon Tuitt. So now you've got Alualu back. They have some defensive ends that they feel a little bit better about. So let's see what happens there. And their inside linebacker play, which obviously – everything in football is a puzzle, right? It's how it fits together. So TJ Watt was so great, and people questioned how good is he just because Bud Dupree is on the other side. Similarly, the inside linebackers had a very tough task when that defensive front wasn't so great. Now let's see, can Devin Bush play better? He's that first rounder that Kevin Colbert traded up for. That was a bit disappointing a year ago. But now he's a full year off of that knee surgery. And I was just talking to Bud Dupree about this. It does take a full year. That first year back, you're not necessarily 100%. So Devin Bush is playing for a contract. Devin Bush is playing knowing that he's completely doubted. And Devin Bush is also playing next to Miles Jack, who, by the way, is an improvement over Joe Schobert. So you would like to think that the inside linebacker play is better. And then, of course, we want to see what happens.
We wouldn't like to think
No, that's not what we would like to hear at all.
What's crazy is even when Mike asks Aditi to point out their deficiencies so we feel better, she puts such a positive spin on it, I feel worse. Here's where they're weak.
Don't sweat it.
Yeah,
Don't sweat it. The Steelers will win 8 games this year. We'll be fine.
That did not scratch that itch, Aditi, that I needed right there, telling me bad
The
things.
Steelers have the worst quarterback situation in the AFC besides the Texans.
Don't matter.
So they'll be all right.
Doesn't matter. Here's the problem.
Disagree.
Here's the problem. They taking things out of consideration. They're not even factoring this in. I'm 40, right? And for my whole life, you know what I've seen?
Steelers kicking ass.
I've seen the Steelers come in here, knock your players unconscious. I've seen the Steelers come in.
Take cheap shots. The cheap shot kick.
Kick your punter in the face.
Kick your punter in the face.
Yeah, kick the punter in
Wave
the
their
face.
towels in your stadium.
Yes.
And the Cleveland Browns have been walking around like Boy Scouts. Oh, we're gonna
kick their ass.
We're gonna have great sportsmanship, and we're gonna get Jason Trusnick, and we're gonna.
What about Myles Garrett when he beat the crap out of the great Kazoo? Everybody was people were criticizing him.
That's one time.
That was a weak hit, too.
That's one time.
It
you
was.
got one game off.
It glanced him.
I
did
need
glance.
this year, to be truthful, Big Ben then left. I need the Cleveland Browns to establish something.
They got to kick their ass.
They got to. I think this is the biggest because the first 4 games, the Steelers game is the one game that it is could be an L if you play around. Because that game, they're going to already come in here with their defense. They're going to come ready to play. My question to you, Aditi, is do the Browns have to establish something past Big Ben? Because, that record, I got tired of seeing the graphic. What is he, 101 or something? He had more wins than any other quarterback in our stadium than our starters.
I think Baker finally passed him last year.
He was all-time winner. We got to do something.
You know what?
So embarrassing.
Baker edged him out.
In a real rivalry, those games count double. You know they're division games, so they count more. But in general, it doesn't matter. I think if you are an AFC North team and you win 13 games, but you lose twice to your rival, then I think the season still has a pall on it, basically. And you're right. You do need to establish something. But I have a question for you, G. Mm-hmm. Why are you so down on the Steelers quarterback situation, and Adam too?
Oh, no,
when
I'm not.
You know that Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett are available, but you're just completely ignoring the import of the quarterback position to the Cleveland Browns.
No.
Yeah, but that's just temporary with the Browns.
That's
How
I like
temporary?
That. If you
How
take Jacoby
temporary?
Brissett,
Great question. Do you know? No.
I I told you guys this on Monday. Nobody knows. All we're hearing is spin from both sides. I'm telling you this. Sue Robinson is not leaking anything. So
with Brissett, the Browns have the worst quarterback situation in the AFC besides Houston.
Right.
So I agree, but that we know that's temporary. Even if it's just 1 year, we know by next year they'll have a great quarterback.
We're talking about this year.
I know but the
year.
Steelers' quarterback situation for this year is definitely one of the worst in the AFC. The Browns is only definitely the worst if Watson doesn't play.
See, I disagree. Are you sure that the Jets situation is better?
I'm not sure.
You think Kyle Wilson is better than Mitch and Kenny?
Not really, but I'm sure the Jets wouldn't trade Zach Wilson.
You want me to
for
keep
those guys.
going?
No, you can give me the Jaguars.
Would?
What's that?
No, wait. You don't think that Doug Peterson is fixing Trevor Lawrence?
I would definitely rather have Trevor Lawrence than what the Steelers have, 100%. I don't think anybody would rather have the Steelers quarterbacks than Trevor Lawrence. You'd rather have those guys than Trevor Lawrence?
I like this take. Go
no,
ahead,
I'm not saying that, but you mentioned the Jaguars, so I was like, wait, where are we going with that one?
No, yeah, I'm saying like the Jaguars and the Jets don't have great quarterback situations at the moment, and I actually am not a believer in Zach Wilson, so maybe I'd even give you 14th instead of 15th, but there's no other team that you like. What other team would you rather have has a worse quarterback situation than the Steelers? Except for maybe the Jets.
I just think that we're kind of undervaluing what I think we're just underselling what the Steelers are going to get out of that position.
Well, see, the Mitch Trubisky thing is tough, Aditi, just because I think in the NFL, out of sight, out of mind, and because he was backing up all last year in Buffalo, people have forgotten, and this is one part of the reason why I'm not so quick to throw dirt on the Steelers. People have forgotten that Mitch Trubisky had a Pro Bowl year.
Okay, but who's he better than
with
besides
nobody
maybe
around him? You know what? In this system, we just don't know. He's a great.
And that's the point.
Was Mason Rudolph any good? Was Doc Hodges any good?
We don't know how he's going to play in this offense with Mike Tomlin. We don't know.
And with the year that he had under Brian Daboll in Buffalo. And again, I just think he's in so much a better situation. We all know this. When you're in a workplace where you feel valued, where you feel you fit, where you feel that the coordinator listens to you and is playing to your strengths, it just makes a difference. And it translates beyond what you've seen before. And so, it's funny. Mike Tomlin teases me all the time about asking feelings questions. But you know what? Football is not black and white. It's not all clear. Like sometimes there are gray things that affect the way that you play. And I think that Mitch Trubisky is right now in an ideal situation. And I fully expect Mitch Trubisky to start the season. But I'm also not writing off the possibility that Kenny Pickett just completely, totally blows him out of the water in training camp. We don't know. We're going to see.
I don't disagree that if Trubisky is going to have success, Pittsburgh is one of the very few places I think it could happen. I don't disagree with you at all. Mike Tomlin's a great coach. It's a great system. They are winners. I understand that. However, the Steelers don't even fully believe in Mitch Trubisky. Otherwise, they wouldn't have drafted Kenny Pickett. If they were 100% certain about Trubisky, teams with good quarterbacks in their 20s don't draft quarterbacks in the third round.
Well, sure, but we've always known that Mitch Trubisky was kind of a patch, right? Isn't that why they offered him a 2-year deal at essentially backup money? It was like, okay, well, this is a good guy to give a flyer to, and we don't know that he's necessarily our franchise quarterback. And look, It was Kenny Pickett that the Steelers loved. If Kenny Pickett was not available at 20, they weren't taking Desmond Ridder or Malik Willis. They were ready to go ahead and ride with Mitch Trubisky. It was that Kenny Pickett was there at 20, and they wanted him, and they thought that was their chance. Okay, great.
And I think I just screwed up again and said third round for Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
But I'm on a roll. I'm on a roll.
Fake news over here. Fake news.
But ultimately, in the end, I can't go crazy about Mitch Trubisky when they just drafted a quarterback because they don't think he's good enough. Right?
But nobody's saying you have to. Again, a football team is a sum of your parts. So what we're sitting here is saying this could be a completely lights out defense, but this could be the top scoring defense in the NFL. This could be a defense that scores, that makes, as Mike Tomlin calls, splash plays regularly, a defense that really contributes to the scoreboard. So you've got that. This is a team that can run the ball really, really well. And I know earlier you were talking about the run game and how much Nick Chubb should run and what that says, et cetera, et cetera. But in the AFC North, if you establish the line of scrimmage, if you establish the run game, that opens up everything else. And you've also got a young wide receiver who's got some game-breaking ability in Deontay Johnson, who's never had the ability to really play with a quarterback who can make things consistently happen downfield. And so now let's see what happens. I'll tell you, I really like those two young wide receivers too, George Pickens and Calvin Austin.
I'm terrified of the Steelers now.
Oh my God, you guys are gutless. You're a gutless bunch amongst you.
I got scared too.
Mike, maybe they'll fall on their faces, and maybe you'll get to cackle. I'm just saying, you write them off at your own peril.
I'm with you. I'm with you, Aditi. I'm with
I
you.
agree. Quick follow-up, though. When Ben is inducted into the Hall of Fame, should there be an asterisk on his plaque that says that 20% of his wins were against the Browns and the Bengals? Because I feel like it should. Isn't that fair? He racked them up through the 2000s.
Don't you feel like that's the greatest statement, though, on the competitor he is?
Yeah.
That the Ohio native, who was passed up by his home state team, stuck it to that home state team every single year.
Yeah, it's fun to hear it out loud.
Yeah,
It's real fun to hear.
That's who petty he is.
Yeah,
Good times.
That's true. Yeah.
Aditi, Mike asked just a question right before you came on, and now I'm curious to get your response on it. If you remove quarterback position, who has the best roster in this division? I said the Ravens, and I was the only one who said the Ravens. Would you lean Steelers?
I think I would still go Browns.
Okay.
I know that the Now, I think there's some big question marks here, right? Because I don't know the Bengals' offensive line, and I don't know the Steelers' offensive line. They both desperately had to improve, and they both made some investments this offseason in their offensive line. Until I actually see those groups of five together, I have to say that the Browns have the best offensive line.
Was that so hard?
Is it hard?
No, I just wanted to hear something positive about the Browns. I was just happy to hear something positive about the Browns.
Yeah. No, but I mean, if it's true, it's true. It's not like I come on the show and lie or talk.
I know you don't, Aditi. You give us the truth,
That's why we
and
have
sometimes
you
it
all the time.
hurts.
You give us the truth.
I'm
What's
not
the
very good at that. I'm not
I don't
good
think-
at rabble rousing. At the being a hot take artist. I'm a crappy liar.
Is defense? What's the position group that the Steelers are best in the division? I think the only one that could be would be defensive line. There can't be anything else, right?
I like their D-line a lot. I mean, and you've got the addition of Ogunjobi, who I think is one of the most underrated players in the NFL.
Totally agree.
Yep.
But I think Highsmith, Alex Highsmith, the young player who plays on the other side, TJ Watt plays one end and Highsmith plays the other at outside linebacker. I do think that he's about to have a monster year, and I think that TJ is ready to have another killer year. I like their pass rush. I really do. And I just think that their pass rush has helped so much by having Cam Hayward up there, and will be helped even further by having Tyson Alualu there back as well. So I think, and I know that this will hurt, and I'm sorry. Of course, I think Myles Garrett and Clowney are great, but I might like the Steelers' defensive front right there.
Well, the Steelers got better tackles than the Browns do.
They're both really good up front.
Yeah, and
the Bengals
Ravens
are good up
still
front too.
Yeah.
They are good up front, but I don't think.
They have a ton of potential, but they're still young. We haven't seen it. When you look at running back, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, obviously, I mean that's the best running back tandem. That's the best running back room in the entire league. Forget the division, but it's hard to say. I think Mixon is great. I think Najee Harris is great. And J.K. Dobbins is pretty darn good before he was hurt, too. So I think that everybody's going to run the ball well. Wide receiver.
Yeah, the Bengals are number one by a lot.
I mean, you have to say the Bengals have the best wide receivers, right?
Yeah,
tight end. We already went through tight end. And Joko has to show me a lot.
Yeah,
He's
but
going to show me a
Baltimore's the
lot.
best there.
Baltimore has the best tight end.
Right, Baltimore's
I like both
got the
Andrews and
best.
Fryer right now.
What we're saying, this is all very depressing. We play in the best
Why
conference,
is it
in the best
depressing?
division,
It's
because
just-
this division
it's
is
exciting.
so
Unbelievable.
It's exciting, but
It's
But isn't that
unbelievable.
part of the fun?
yeah, it's great. The
Great
games
games
are
every week.
great, but I would so much rather we play in a division that
AFC
had
South.
three other 6 and
Bring
11.
on the South.
We need
Yes, put us in the
you need an
South.
we got that for baseball, the AL Central.
Winning is fun,
I know, but
Aditi.
that's like when the Patriots were beating up on the Little Sisters of the Poor every single year. I mean, it was boring. How
but
are
they
those
were so
Sundays
fresh.
fun?
But
Aditi-
weren't the playoffs fun when the Steelers did that to the Browns twice every single year?
Yeah,
Did
they
you
weren't
have fun in the
complaining that
playoffs
this was no
afterwards?
fun.
This is boring.
And to your point, Aditi, about the Patriots, because they played in such a weak division, it didn't take, it wasn't death by a million cuts. When they got to the playoffs, their path to the playoffs was so easy because they had garbage in their division.
And they had a higher seed.
And they were a higher
Because
seed.
they got to
and-
pile up
and
wins
they
against
racked
them.
up a lot of
Yeah,
Super
but they
Bowl
weren't
rings playing in that
necessarily
crappy
playoff
division.
tested. I mean, think about all the teams that, we've seen in recent years, wild cards. We've seen in recent years
happened.
those teams that won all those road games go and win the Super Bowl.
The Bengals
Packers
just went
did
to
it
the Super
twice.
Bowl as a wild card, yeah.
It can happen. I'm just saying, to me, winning is fun, so it'd be a lot more fun if we were in the AFC South.
They got to go take it.
Well,
You
look,
can't just-
I do really like the Browns roster. We already established this on Monday. The Browns are built to win right now. So whatever happens at the quarterback situation, at the quarterback position, I do think that they are, in fact, built to win. And, I mean, it just feels like we're so antsy for training camp to start, right?
Oh, gosh.
Like, how much more can we talk about this?
Yeah.
Let's just see what actually happens on the field and talk about what we're really seeing.
McNuggets wants in with a question.
It'd be fun to report an injury.
So within the last few minutes, it's being reported that Kyler Murray has signed a massive extension with the Arizona Cardinals.
That's a huge
Ties him
mistake.
I think it's a
to
mistake,
Arizona for 5 to 6 years. My question for you guys and Aditi.
Do we know a number?
No number yet, but that's my question.
Yeah, I wanna
Do
see
we
it.
think it's fully guaranteed like Deshaun Watson's contract was? Aditi, I'll let you start.
I don't think so.
I don't
I'm going
know.
to guess no.
By the way, we keep saying that Deshaun Watson had the first guaranteed contract. Didn't Kirk Cousins get the first guaranteed contract?
Yes.
And
It's the
unlike
first
Deshaun Watson, he's a mediocre player.
I think his was the first that was the highest, that was the biggest number in the NFL. He's the highest paid player.
You know what's
It's
so
all
funny
guaranteed.
is how. You know what's so funny? The NFL is right now in the sports world. There are only 2 sports that are seeing viewership and ratings and fan engagement growing, and that's Formula One and the National Football League. And yet we get so unbelievably hot and bothered by NFL players getting these fully guaranteed contracts. What
you,
about Major
Aditi.
League Baseball?
I agree.
Listen,
you.
I don't get hot
I
and
agree.
bothered at all.
Comparisons to what a baseball player makes versus
Sure.
what an NFL player makes, and maybe we can just say this is the reckoning that players deserve at this
It's
point.
about time. I don't
Yes.
think
This
is
anybody's
what we
hot
should
and bothered by it.
Well, I just feel like people are just so bent out of control, and you constantly hear this storyline, whether it's true or not, that the league is angry at the Haslams and owners are angry at the Haslams. Maybe the Haslams are the first ownership group actually doing right by the players that play the game.
Grab that clip.
Maybe.
Please,
I mean, just
please.
throwing it out.
That's a dope line.
Send it to the
It's
Haslams.
not a conversation. Look, let me just say really quickly before I'm accused of being an apologist for Dee and Jimmy Haslam. It's not a conversation that I've ever had with them. I have no idea if it was anything more than we just really want Deshaun Watson and this is what it's going to take. I don't know that there was a bigger statement in doing it. I'm just kind of saying we as fans, we as media people, we get so up in arms. How could you give this huge guaranteed contract to somebody, especially somebody who has potential baggage or who does have baggage? Well, why aren't the players saying it's about time that we get fully guaranteed contracts?
It's about time they caught up
when our
with the other
brethren in
leagues.
the NBA and our brethren in Major League Baseball are getting those guaranteed
Absolutely. And
contracts.
that's why I don't know that it's so much up in arms.
I got the
it was
info.
shocking.
I got the
It was
Kyler
all.
Murray info. It is not fully guaranteed. Kyler Murray's extension with the Cardinals, 5 years, $230.5 million. By the way,
That's
Deshaun
more than
Watson's
Deshaun
was
Watson.
$230 million even. So it's $0.5 million more over 5 years.
Not by accident.
Right. That's exactly right.
$160 million guaranteed.
Man.
That's all?
By the way, I'd much rather have Deshaun Watson at $230 guaranteed than Kyler Murray at $160 guaranteed any day
Absolutely.
I
of the
think that's
week.
a huge
Kyler
mistake.
Murray bailed on his teammates last year. Kyler
And he
Murray bailed on
collapses
his
at the
teammates
end of every year,
in the final
Kyler Murray.
game. Colt McCoy, you know what? Colt McCoy yelled at him and said, "You will regret this. You get back in that game," and he didn't go back in that game against the Rams.
Colt McCoy
You,
yelled
you
at
know
him.
how they always have these lists? Like we talk about these lists all the time of like the best quarterback coach combos. I think Kyler Murray and what's the schmo who's the coach there?
Cliff Kingsbury.
Cliff
His name is
Kingsbury.
Cliff
I think they are
Kingsbury,
the
but I
most
wouldn't call this-
overrated combo in the history of football.
But he's good. He's
Kyler Murray's
enough
good,
to-
not great.
He's good.
He
and
and
he's
his
a-
coach. The
and he's a
coach never did
quarterback.
anything in college. I don't know how he got an NFL job.
They don't
He's
want
friends with Sean
because
McVay.
he's got a hot wife and he's friends with Sean McVay. I think that's
They
it.
do
I
not
don't
want
know.
to go back to purgatory, so any good quarterback is going to get the
I
bag.
guess.
Aditi, we hate to have you leave all
And I'm
of
glad
this,
he got paid. Good for him. I just don't think he's that
But
good.
we know we only have you for a limited time. Thank you for
Sorry,
joining
Aditi.
us. No, it's okay.
No,
we
I'll
appreciate
be
you.
in Cleveland. I'll be in Korea in a few weeks, so hopefully I get to come and you can clear a chair for me.
That'd be
Right, well,
wonderful.
See you there.
Consider it
Very
done.
Yep.
Between Mike and Jason.
I'll just leave now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See you, Jace.
No,
Thank you for all the
Bye,
positive
guys.
Steelers spin.
Bye,
Bye.
Yeah.
See you soon. Sorry, Mike.
Yeah, I don't care. I mean, good for Kyler Murray for getting paid.
I'm always for guys.
I
getting
never
paid,
begrudge when guys
but I
get
wouldn't
paid.
make that deal.